When you said that, my brain automatically went to, would you say that those are the most common things companies do overlook when it comes to those annexes?
The annexes people do overlook certain things in terms of setting up the policies and procedures. One thing I've seen repeatedly not done correctly or meeting the requirement is setting up the policies and topic specific policy. One of the things which I see in a recurring manner. So when I say topic specific policies, in every organization, maybe there is an assigned responsibility of somebody who's doing the IT, or there is an IT admin, system admin, and a network admin, and there is a developer team and stuff like that. There is going to be an overarching information security policy, but then the topic specific is the network administrator needs to know the network, the information transfer policy, network exchange policy, and policies which are very specific to his or her role. He doesn't need to know any other like software development policy or secure engineering policy. The developer needs to know the secure engineering policy. So it is the topic specific policy, a mechanism to make sure that the different stakeholders get the right policies based on their roles and responsibilities. That requirement is consistently not being met by a lot of organizations. They do have a very good mechanism of keeping a track of their training, but how to know based on this particular role, these trainings are required to make that kind of adjustments in their system is what I have not seen a thorough process. So that is one thing I've seen that organization by default not able to show good evidences or prove to that. We give this training to everyone in their employee handbook and those, right? But not the topic specific. So that's one thing I have seen that not meet the requirement more so. The second aspect where I see organizations not doing a very thorough job is business continuity or the continuity of operations. And that's a very important requirement. You want to prevent the organization from disruptions. For example, any organization which is headquartered in Florida, they already know how hurricane can disrupt their organization functions and all. So they are already prepared with it. But they are not prepared with the aspect where right now, demographically, we are all segregated, meaning most of the organization would have few crew members who are in regionally segregated location or even geographically in a different country for that matter. So how does physical and environmental climate change and things of that nature impact that has on your organization? So all these aspects are very important to your business operations and the continuity of operations and how the information is backed up. So considering all of these elements where no longer is the organization reliant on a physical location and just people coming to the office, right? We are into an evolved kind of environment now, almost like we are a very big family. So aspects have to be considered. What if certain members are not able to report to work? Who can take over? The system is backed up. Where is the information house? It should not be in somebody's laptop. It should be into one repository. Maybe it's a drive or wherever, which is a common drive. It's backed up there so that if somebody has to go take some personal time off, they do have that luxury to take that time. So very important, and it addresses the new changes which the standard has brought in for both the standards is climate, impact of the climate changes. Organizations have to consider because regardless, even if you're everything cloud-based, you still deal with people.
Yeah, that's the key, the people.
People. True.
Okay. Now, when it comes to internal audits, what should businesses be watching out for?
So in internal audits, the organizations need to consider the time, give due diligence time here, because unlike 9001, just the 9001, when organizations are doing, I'm using that as a reference, the audit may be as little as 1 day. But typically 27001 would take into consideration the mandatory requirement and the controls. And the controls will go over 4 or 5 days, depending on however many minutes you spend on each control, 93 controls. Even if you spend like 4 or 5 minutes, it takes time to go through all the controls to do a very thorough review of the evidence that's provided. So organizations, when they go through these cycles of internal audit, please make sure that people who, if you have an internal team, they have the adequate training, go through an internal auditor training programs, get the people adequately trained. And also, if you don't want to do it in-house, you can always engage consulting companies like us, and we can help you. And your members can shadow with us. That way they can learn how to assess and how to check the evidences for a particular control. Because each control has to be very thorough. For example, you cannot just check one inventory of assets and we say, oh, I can see one hardware asset inventory and you're done. You have to check the software. You have to check, okay, there is building facilities. You have to check, okay, how are you going to audit them? So you have to check multiple evidences, artifacts, and not just one checkbox and you're done kind of. So adequate time, making sure you have people available to respond to these. Yes, just doing a thorough job, and it's not a checkbox.
When mentioning a checkbox, my brain automatically goes to management review. How can a management review go beyond just checking a box?
So management review, one of the most key element aspects with any standard for that matter, because that's where you give an update of how the system is performing to the highest management level. Because highest management level, they set up the governance, they provide the leadership, the resources, and then let a delegate take the ownership of the system periodically. And by that, most of the organization, it will serve the best if you want to do a quarterly management review. That way you can keep on checking that how your systems are performing. You get an overview of your corrective actions are happening, you have any risk that have come up, you have any operationally any concerns, your objectives are going along okay or not. So management review gives you that holistic view of the performance of the system. And when I say the system, right, everybody thinks a system is something you put on the top of your processes. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
You improve your processes, and interconnected processes are systems. ISO is not something you put on the top of your processes and systems and say, okay, this is what we are doing. No, it is you put the KPIs, the matrices associated, at your process level, and that is being monitored. And you're saying, okay, this is how this process is performing. This is where I'm having some concerns. This is the risk. This is the correct, issues that I faced. And this is what the remedial we had done. So at the organizational level, most of the businesses want to know this information regularly. Are there any issues? Are there any concerns? Are there any complaints? Are there any risk? How are we doing? Are we meeting our annual goals? Are we on track? Are we spending more? So they want to look at it very regularly as opposed to annually. And that's what management review is. Management review is nothing else than these things. So when an organization does this regularly, you get a good sense of, okay, things. And most of the organizations that are running, they are running efficiently because they are doing these aspects not in the most formal way, but they are doing these aspects.
Okay. Now, I guess this may be, I'd say, a tough question on my side, but what signals during an audit or review show that a company is turning risk into opportunity?
The biggest sign or a signal when the organization is turning the risk into opportunities would be someone or an organization where they have first thing we notice ever is the management is hands-on in those cases. Management is involved. The highest level of the management, CEO, president gets involved in the opening meeting. They are the drivers of the management systems. That's a key thing we will observe. Because when that happens, you already know they are very open about any observations coming out. The second thing we will see is a very robust, very, very, very thorough and robust risk assessment, and very regularly used. if we see something where organizations are not identifying the risk and opportunities within a few months, you already know they're not looking at it very closely. So those are the two signs. And by default, what would happen is when we see management very involved, is they will take, because they are that, you know, aware about the standards and how these mechanisms work, they are so open about taking feedback, and they
Mhm.
convert every feedback, meaning any observations, any OFI, into an improvement opportunity.
Wow.
So they take any corrective actions. There is another signal for us that we will see a very robust corrective action mechanism. They would have a very good incident management, and incident management will tie into their corrective action. So the workflow would be amazingly simple to follow.
Like that sounds definitely hands-on, but yeah, good signals, good signals. Now, if a company is going for both ISO 9001 and ISO 27001, what would you say would be the smartest way to tackle them together?
Okay. So the smartest way to tackle them together would be start with the mandatory requirements and get 9 and 27 built at one time. So when you're putting together the policy, make the policy around what you want to say in terms of integrated management systems, meeting with the confidentiality, integrity, and meeting the customer requirements. So you want to wordsmith it in a way where you meet the requirement of both the standards, and you're not keeping two different policies, you're keeping one policy. When you're setting up the objectives, you set up the objectives so that you have certain objectives which are associated with quality management system, your processes, some of the objectives around your incident management system. And then you take those aspects and are able to review it. So mandatory requirements, do an integrated approach, and then have the annexes being worked out, maybe with the same individual or with the other individual. So mandatory requirement, go ahead and do that as an integrated and keep the annexes so that you are not doing multiple audits, you're doing one audit and one gap assessment.
Okay, totally fair. And where do you see the biggest overlaps that would be able to save time and most importantly, effort?
As I mentioned, the overlap is the mandatory requirements. That is the biggest overlap. You want to make sure that you do not have multiple policies. You want to have one policy for quality policy, information security policy, one policy like that. Objectives have to be done together. You are going to do one procedure for risk management, one document for SWOT, one for interested parties, one document for a manual, documented information. You want to one document for corrective actions, incident management, internal audit, management review. You want to create one individual procedures as opposed to two procedures for two different standards. You don't want to do that. So you want to have as many of these procedures integrated, and those are the procedures you want to get them all integrated into one.
Awesome. 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 Well, those are all the questions that I have.
They were fun.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you most importantly for your time. I think this is quite helpful. It sounds like there are levels of overlapping, but not only that, the signals of being able to see a well put together either team or a group that's ready to take action but have things in place. Definitely an eye opener. So, more than anything, thank you for your time and your knowledge.
Thank you. My pleasure. Until next time, Myaj.
Bye.
Bye bye.